It's our last episode of the quarter, the patch is just around the corner, and speaking of which,
what's in this quarter's Alpha 3.17.2 anyway? Let's recap in this quarter's patch report.
Up first, let's start with some character items, and these new variants of the RRS Specialist Heavy Armor coming to Alpha 3.17.2, including this traditional camo variant, an Arctic variant, and perhaps my personal favorite, the radiation-resistant Fallout variant. There's also a new Grey Cat backpack specifically for the purpose of collecting salvage in preparation for when that day arrives. And for subscribers, here's a blast from Star Citizen's past with a look at the exploration-themed vintage spacesuit commemorating RSI's first commercial spaceship, the Zeus. Be sure you keep an eye out for that when it becomes available in the coming months. And in the space above Microtech and ArcCorp, you'll discover a number of new space stations being added that will make travel to and from these Stanton classics easier than ever before, while adding additional visual flair through gas clouds at the Lagrange points, similar to those found around other planets. With so much of the focus on the upcoming Pyro these days, it's important to keep refining and improving the locations of Stanton, and that includes the addition of more medical rooms at Grimhex, because with all the recent player pirate activity, it was causing a bit of a traffic jam at times. Adding additional hangar exteriors for rest stops, enabling the addition of more small and medium hangars for ships to these locations, and the ability to summon and store a greater variety of spacecraft along the way. And down on the surface of our planets, the beginnings of our Derelict outpost rollout, starting with these relics of past life in the verse on Microtech. Designed to create more opportunities for exploration, missions, loot, and the like, 3.17.2 will find several here as more are added in subsequent patches throughout the remainder of this year. And speaking of missions, Alpha 3.17.2 has additions and refinements galore, starting with the revamp of the Combat Assist Service Beacon system, aiming to provide a more natural progression for players from fighting tiny Aurora all the way up to massive Idrises, or Idri, or Idro, I don't know. There's also more collect and delivery mission progression for the dedicated criminal element and those who maybe just want a little more scratch by stepping just outside the lines of the law sometimes. And then there's the new crashed reclaimer derelict settlements, which come with a variety of new missions requiring players to explore, attack, defend, and otherwise experience the majesty of these fantastic new locations made possible with help from the next major milestone from our AI team, Dynamic Planetary Nav Mesh, which will allow mission designers to begin adding NPC life to not just these new derelicts, but any other curiosities you might find on the surface of Stanton's planets and moons. And if you thought the crashed reclaimers were the only new derelicts to explore in Alpha 3.17.2, be sure you head out into the farthest reaches of Stanton and discover for yourself a host of new mission content linked to these brand new space-bound derelicts included in this quarter's patch as well. Then finally, the big mammer jammer dynamic event of them all so far, the Siege of Orison is bringing with it an FPS event the likes of which has never been attempted in Star Citizen, pitting players against the criminally industrialist Ninetales in a battle to decide how Orison should be pronounced. Is it Orison or Horizon? Potato? Tomato? We may never know. But the battle across this new expansion to the Orison landing zone will be an involved one with many, many fronts.
Can you tell I recorded the patch report at a different time? But while we're talking about the Siege of Orison, while we do want to leave most of its twists and turns for you to discover on your own, we did ask Luke and Elliot from the mission feature team for some helpful hints to this year's major event. Let's see what they had to say in a segment that we're calling Siege of Orison. Top 10 Pro Tips.
This event is like nothing you've experienced in Star Citizen so far. You will need to prepare. You will need ammo, weapons, armor, Otherwise, you will not make it out alive.
For this event, we have a IFI, which is the Identify a Friend or Foe inverter. And basically what that does is that's going to turn the platform's turrets onto the side of the Ninetales. It also affects the restricted area, so you won't be able to fly your ship in.
These new platforms are huge, and we have done the best we can to sign these and put maps up all over the place that show you, like, you are here.
You'll find signage all around that shows you where shuttles are to get between the islands. However,
they are slightly different to how shuttles currently work. They're more like elevators in that you have to call them to your location, and when you get in, you have to send them to the next location. So be aware of that.
You can't get to all the islands via the shuttles, but we've put enough toys around to allow you to get there a different way.
So there are various locked containers all over the island. You'll need a code to get into them.
Make sure to check them all because they have a multitude of surprises. We've added a maze in this somewhere. Just remember that you can't jump as far when you're wearing heavy armor. This event might take a while, so don't forget to loot your fallen enemies.
We decided we weren't going to hold the player's hand in this mission. There are a lot of optional secret objectives that players will have to figure out for themselves.
With combat assist service beacons, illegal collect and delivery missions, a variety of new missions and NPC opportunities embedded in the new Reclaimer Derelicts, the Siege of Orison, and more, Alpha 3.17.2 may have the numbering of just a little tiny point patch, but there's a whole bunch of new gameplay packed within. Now that about does it for this quarter's ISE, but keep an eye on the robertsspaceindustries.com website for details on the release of Alpha 3.17.2 while we're on our regularly scheduled hiatus. And when we come back, maybe we'll do so from inside the new performance capture stage being built right next door. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee, closing out once more from the very noisy 9th floor of the Manchester Goods Yard building, and this is where I'm told Aaron Roberts' office is going to be. So let me just clean these windows here a bit. We'll see you all next month.